So I figured for this final reflection that instead of writing a paper or doing some other kind of project that I would instead make a video as I think about becoming a teacher. I know that it'll be important the way that I communicate and doing actual lessons in front of students, so I figured an appropriate way to reflect on everything I've learned in this first class is to make a video and to talk about it, knowing how important oral communication is. So the four things I'm going to be talking about as I reflect on this Intro to Teaching class is the characteristics of effective schools, characteristics of effective teachers, characteristics of effective curriculum and instruction, and also characteristics of 21st century students and how their needs can be met. First off, I want to look at characteristics of effective schools, and this says regardless of the type. The first thing is that I think no matter what kind of school it is, it needs to create the right kind of environment for learning. And there are lots of things that go into making a school right for learning. I think it has to be positive. I think it has to be safe. I think it has to be challenging. It needs to have a community type atmosphere. So there's all kinds of things that go into making it the right kind of environment for students. I think, and this will be a common theme through a lot of what I talk about, but I think it needs to be a school that works well with diversity. Our culture is becoming much more diverse, and so I think schools need to be prepared to deal with diversity. I also think that to be an effective school, the school needs to partner well with parents. One thing I've learned both from Chapter 2 and then also just from my own experience is that to really make a difference in a child's life and to really bring home what you're wanting to actually teach children, it's so important for the parents to be involved in their lives. In fact, a lot of times it's the difference between a child that succeeds and doesn't succeed, no matter what is taught in the classroom. And so one way to, I think, help exponentially for a student is to partner with their parents as much as possible, and the school can do that. And in a similar way that it partners with the community, there are all kinds of resources, all kinds of ways that a school can partner with different organizations, different facets of life to really give a holistic approach to the way that they help the students. I also think that one thing that's really stuck out to me as I've read or gone through this first class is that smaller class sizes are better. I mean, I've known that, but I think looking through this class and learning the things that I have, I see now why as much personalized instruction is so important. For instance, in one of the PowerPoint presentations, the group that talked about homeschooling, one of the reasons I think that homeschool students do so much better than other students that go to public school is the obvious fact that there are smaller class sizes. In fact, sometimes it can be one-on-one, three-on-one, and so I think that really helps a student succeed. The smaller the class, the better. I think the school needs to be structured and orderly, that rules are enforced and they are consistent across the board throughout the school is really going to help that school and those students succeed. I think a school that puts students first. I think a school that has strong and supportive leadership between the school board, the superintendent, principal, the people that manage the money. One thing we read in Chapter 8 is just how important it is the way that the school manages the budget. I think doing things like staff professional development and collaboration and teamwork as much as possible across the board and really preparing those teachers to succeed is going to make it an effective school. And finally, I think just kind of going with that collaborative effort, I think having curriculum with coherence, in other words, everything that the school teaches seems to fit together. That's not teachers kind of out on islands teaching whatever they want to teach, but that for a student that kind of progresses through the school, it all makes sense, and it's a learning experience from the time they enter the school and go through that school system. Second thing I want to talk about are characteristics of effective teachers, regardless of where they teach. The first thing is I think teachers' motivations need to be in the right place. One of the things at the very beginning of the course when we did the survey, that was really eye-opening to me as I got to look at my own motivations for wanting to become a teacher, and I was very surprised and very pleased that I felt like my motivations were in the right place. Even though I have a lot to learn, I felt like I was becoming a teacher for the right reasons. I think that teachers are learners themselves. On page 7, one of the NBPTS standards is that teachers are learners, and so I think teachers always need to be improving, always need to be building upon what they know. I talked about this earlier, but collaboration I think is so important. To be an effective teacher, I think you have to collaborate with those that you work with. Um, Having one of the in-task standards is communication skills. So I think having really effective communication skills to students is really going to help you to become an effective teacher. I think being able to multitask, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later too, but not only providing good instruction, but doing that while also managing a classroom. And while there's a lot of things going on at once, maybe multitasking isn't the right word, but it's just doing a lot of things happening at once and being able to deal with all the different things that are coming at a teacher at once. I think an effective teacher genuinely cares about students, really cares that they do better, and we all know of many teachers that don't fit that are doing it for a paycheck or doing it just because it's a job. I think good teachers are prepared. I think that they have good lesson plans and they come prepared, ready to teach. I think good teachers are fair in the way that they deal with students, that they treat students equally. I think that they're qualified to teach the subject that they are teaching, or the age that they are teaching, and that they have a passion to teach the subject. I know for me with English, as I look forward to teach English and language arts, I realized that I was real passionate about teaching students how to communicate and how to express themselves, whether it be through writing or through speaking or other means. And I get real passionate about that, and that's going to help me, I think, to become a better teacher. And finally, a teacher is a leader. I really think to become an effective teacher, you need to be a leader. You need to set the example for your students of not only of how to act and behave, but really that you become that role model in that student's life. Third thing we're going to look at is characteristics of effective curriculum and instruction. The first thing is just differentiation of instruction. The video we looked at of both Judy and Bob, they use different ways of communicating and teaching to the students. So I think knowing that students learn differently, really good teachers need to be able to meet those different needs. And again, that's something that we'll see in other parts of this video. I think using constant assessment, not only at the end of a lesson or a unit, but just even in informal ways to just kind of check to see if students are keeping up and are learning. I think there are all kinds of ways, just by asking questions, by homework assignments, a lot of different ways that you can kind of check to see how students are tracking. I think keeping the standard in mind. When I wrote the lesson plan last week or 2 weeks back, that it really helped to write an effective lesson plan and to know how to teach. I had to keep the standard. What's the goal of what I'm teaching, and being able to aim everything I do toward that standard. It's really going to help you have effective curriculum and instruction. I think that it needs to be fun and engaging. I think there's nothing worse than a boring presentation to students. So I think not only mixing it up, but also keeping it fun and engaging for the students. I think whenever possible, personalized instruction is the best, being able to modify things for different students. That was one of the things I liked about when we did the charter school presentation for our group project, was that a lot of these schools came about, and a charter school did, to help students and to maybe have something that's more personalized for a student. I think being able to be flexible in what you teach is really important, to be able to change things up. If something's just not working, to have the freedom to be able to change it. I think practicing is important, not only a particular lesson beforehand, but I think one of the reasons that you get better with teaching throughout the years as you repeat lessons is that you've practiced it before, you've done it before, you know what works and doesn't work. So I think just being able to practice, whether it's your first time or your 10th time doing something, that's been, excuse me, one of the joys with what I do in youth ministry is because I have students for 2 years, I'm able to repeat the curriculum that I have. So by the time I've been doing this for 7 years, sometimes I've been doing things for the third or fourth time, it's better than it was the first time. I think giving students choices, or at least thinking that they have choices, helps them to succeed and have the motivation. I think keeping Bloom's taxonomy in mind, both the old one and the new one, with higher order thinking skills, everywhere from knowledge to remembering to evaluation synthesis to create. So knowing that each lesson builds upon itself and keeping in mind what a student needs to know, and that they won't be able to create something unless they've done all the other steps and can really use that information. And I mentioned this earlier, but I think multitasking, keeping everything in mind, creating an educational environment while also managing the class and instructing is going to help you, I think, to be better in how you teach. The last thing I want to look at is characteristics of 21st century students and how their needs can be met. The big overarching thing here is that students are diverse. 21st century students are very diverse, and the way that we meet their needs are diverse. It's not a cookie cutter approach. There's not one way that's going to help every single student. So knowing that the way that we teach and how we approach students is just as diverse as they are is really going to help, I think, in the way that we meet their needs. One of the ways that I think we can meet their needs is the different types of schools. We looked at in the group projects, my group looked at charter schools, home schools, online schools, and all of those are different ways to meet the different needs that students have. That maybe a regular public school just doesn't work for a certain student. Well, there are other types of schools that might work. There are some students that have actual documented disabilities, and so there's ways that we can help. In the differentiation modification assignment that we had, mine was emotional disorders, and so there are ways that we can modify what we're doing to help those students that have emotional disorders and really help them succeed, and to not use their disabilities or their disorders as an excuse for not succeeding. IEPs are a great way to with those students, is to help come up with an individualized plan for them to help them get back on the right track. I think teaching culture awareness and acceptance of differences is going to be very important. Just as diverse as students are, is to embrace the diversity and the differences that we have, and teaching culture, because I think a lot of ignorance comes from a lack of awareness of culture. In a similar way, I think teaching character traits is very important. Teaching students how to become a better person is going to help with that. Another way that we know that 21st century students are very technological. The technology, mass media, social media is really playing with these students, and it's engaging them. And so I think using technology in the classroom is a way that we can help meet those needs. I think teaching a well-rounded curriculum, so not only just the academic things, but bringing in things such as the arts, physical activity, teaching about nutrition, all kinds of ways to help them become a more well-rounded individual is going to help students really succeed. Mentioned this before, but I think connecting with parents and everything we can do to reach out to parents is going to help 21st century students. I think that in a lot of ways the family is breaking down, and we've seen just a lot of problems that are happening within families, and so everything that teachers and schools can do to reach out to these parents could be very important. And finally, I think building up self-confidence with students is really going to help students these days, is to focus on the wins that they have and not just the losses. Sometimes I think students can get in a losing streak and they feel like they can't improve and they give up the motivation to learn. So I think focusing and finding ways, creative ways, to show them that they are winning, they are succeeding, even when maybe they still have a lot of improvement, is really going to help. So there's kind of an overview and the things that I learned through this class, the Intro to Teaching class, and so I was very happy to have gone through the class, and I feel like I've learned quite a bit from where I started and have a greater knowledge of teaching. So thank you so much.